Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing the painting process for a watercolor gnome that I created about 3 weeks ago in order to place into the March calendar that I sent out to my newsletter subscribers at the end of last month. For over a year, I have been sending out at the end of every month a calendar to my newsletter subscribers that features a watercolor illustration inspired by the following month. So in this case, I really wanted to do something inspired by spring, and I really love garden gnomes, so I just decided to paint one. And along with this painting process, I'm also going to be sharing the exact watercolor painting supplies that I used when I was first getting started in my watercolor painting journey that I feel really allowed me to progress my painting skills. And also, these products are accessibly priced, they offer good quality for beginners just starting out, and most importantly, they won't make you feel bad because you're wasting them. While it's definitely important to invest in quality art supplies, I feel that a lot of beginners waste money on things that they really don't need. And at the same time, it's important to keep creating and to stay consistent with our watercolor painting practice because this is what's going to help us make progress. If we buy super expensive paint sets or paper or even paintbrushes, we might think they are too precious to use, and this is going to keep us from practicing as much as we could, and we're going to feel bad for wasting them, and we don't want this to happen. Now, if you haven't watched a previous watercolor painting video that I released a while back titled Watercolor Supplies for Beginners and Essential Things to Know, I highly recommend you check it out before this one because in that one I go very much into depth in regards to the different watercolor papers that exist, the different watercolor paintbrushes that you should know about as a beginner just starting out. I talk about some common misconceptions and give a ton of information that is going to help you just feel a lot less overwhelmed when you are in an art supply store and faced with all of these different supplies. I'm going to make sure to leave a link to that video down below in the description box. Before I share my specific watercolor paint, paintbrushes, and paper that I used when I was first getting started myself and still use to the day, by the way, I want to send out a huge welcome to all you new people just visiting my channel for the very first time. I'm super happy you're here. Consider subscribing because every single Friday I share a new video with art tips, drawing and painting tutorials, and encouragement type videos for aspiring artists. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to click on the little notification bell so that YouTube can let you know whenever I publish a new video. And I also want to send out a huge thank you to the people that have joined my brand new membership site over on Patreon. I'm working extra hard on making this membership site as best as I possibly can and filling it up with valuable content and resources designed to help aspiring artists finally make their art a habit, progress their skills, and find their artistic voice. I'm going to leave a link to my Patreon site down below in the description box in case you're interested in checking it out. The direct links to all of these different products that I'm going to be mentioning today will be left down below for you in the description box. They are all found on Amazon, and Amazon is still the place where I buy most of my art supplies. Alright, so in terms of watercolor paper, there are two brands that I always recommend and suggest to every beginner that asks me, and they are Strathmore and Canson. And I myself bought a whole bunch of different varieties of paper and formats of paper of both of these brands when I was first getting started myself, and I still use them to the day whenever I am creating artworks that I am not intending to sell originals of. If I had to choose between these two brands, I would personally go for Strathmore, which is probably a couple of dollars more than the Canson XL. It of course depends on the size and format that you buy. But if you want to use single sheets of watercolor paper and you want to acquire it in pad or block form, I would really recommend you get the Strathmore 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, especially the best from their 400 series. Now, Canson Excel tends to get a bad rap from more experienced watercolor artists that have used more expensive, higher quality watercolor paper that is 100% cotton, like Artiste and the sort. However, I feel it's a perfect option for beginners just starting out so that you can practice as much as possible and you don't have to worry about it going to waste. This gnome that you're watching me paint right now was painted on Canson Excel cold press 140-pound watercolor paper. Now, if you're more of a sketcher type of person and you like working outdoors or taking your art supplies with you to different settings and working there, there's this visual journal by Strathmore that is made of 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper that I used a lot. I actually took this journal to work and just practiced my watercolor painting, you know, in whatever free moment I had when I was still working full time. And this journal can be found on Amazon at around $14. Alright, you guys, so moving on to the two specific watercolor paint sets that I feel really finally allowed me to grasp what watercolor painting is and be less frustrated while using it, because prior to these two products, I was using very cheap watercolor paint that was just very difficult to work with, and the painting process as well as the final outcome just wasn't what I expected it to be. And so I finally discovered these paint sets, and I love both of these paint sets so much that I have bought these more than once. And I personally love these paint sets so much that I find myself reaching for them even while having more expensive paint sets by Schmincke and other brands. And these two paint sets are number one, the Winsor & Newton Cotman Watercolor Paint Sketchers Pocket Box. And the second watercolor paint set that I would totally recommend to beginners just starting out is the Sakura Koi 18 color field sketch set. And this one actually comes with a water fillable brush. Both the Winsor & Newton Cotman line watercolor sets as well as the Sakura Koi watercolors can be found in a large variety of sizes. I would highly recommend you review your different options and decide on which one you want to go for depending on the budget you have available. Now, something very important for beginners to understand, and something that I didn't know in the beginning myself, is that just because a watercolor paint set contains more colors, it's not necessarily better than a watercolor paint set that has 6 or 12 colors. I was personally very happy, and I gained a ton of knowledge with that Winsor & Newton Cotman Line Sketchers Pocket Box with the 12 different colors, and I loved it so much that I bought it again, and then I decided to invest in a larger set. And finally, just to finish up this section in regards to watercolor paint sets, I just want to say that even though Winsor & Newton does offer a bit of a higher quality than the Sakura Koi watercolors, and I also love that Winsor & Newton actually discloses information about the pigments contained in their paint sets, which Sakura Koi watercolors don't do. Both of these paints are creamy, they mix easily, and the colors are very vibrant. Alright, you guys, so moving on to the final section of this video, and of course, this is in regards to the watercolor paintbrushes. Now, I have found that the same thing happens with the paintbrushes as what happens with the watercolor paint sets. Just because you see this huge, immense paintbrush set with paintbrushes in all of these different shapes and sizes, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's better or that you're even gonna use all of those paintbrushes. As I shared in my previous watercolor supplies video, which is a lot more thorough and I highly recommend you check out after this one if you haven't already, I wasted a lot of money when I was first starting my watercolor painting journey on these huge watercolor paintbrush sets that contained very cheap paintbrushes that fell apart pretty fast or that I simply ended up not using at all. Nowadays, whenever I have to go out and buy a new paintbrush, I have a much more solid understanding of what I'm looking for, not because I know much more about watercolor paintbrush characteristics, which of course that helps a lot, but I know what kind of painting I want to be creating and in what kind of style I want to create those paintings in. So what I highly recommend beginners do is, Instead of going out and choosing paintbrushes blindly or getting very impressed by these huge paintbrush sets, actually make an informed choice by thinking of what kind of painting you want to be creating or the kind of painting that you want to get better at. Are you looking to paint landscapes? Are you looking to paint portraits? Are you looking to paint still life? Are you looking to get better at illustrations with little to no background to them? And what kind of style are you personally going for? Are you going for a very loose, splashy watercolor painting, or do you like more detailed, controlled styles? If you're going for loose landscapes, for example, you're probably going to be better off with larger paintbrush sizes. But if you want to do still lifes or very detailed objects, you're probably going to be better off with smaller paintbrush sizes. And it's all going to be up to you and what you want to create and what you discover about your own way of working. And all of this just comes through time and practice. I have discovered personally for myself, I am very happy having just a few different sizes of round brushes and a couple of larger flats, and I can create all sorts of paintings using only those. I am definitely not going to be leaving the links to the first couple of watercolor paintbrush sets that I bought through Amazon because I do not recommend those at all. And actually, fun fact, in the first few videos that I uploaded here on YouTube, I'm actually using 2 round brushes that came in this watercolor paintbrush set. But I have moved on to greener pastures since then, and I discovered a brand of accessibly priced good quality watercolor paintbrushes that I love. They are called Royal and Langnickel, and I'll be leaving a couple of links down below in the description box in case you want to go and check them out. Alright you guys, that is it for today's video. I hope that you got something from this, and let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions at all. Or if you have been painting with watercolors for a while and you know of any specific products or brands that offer good quality for accessible prices, do share them. I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video because it really helps my content get in front of more people. Don't forget to subscribe so that I can see you next Friday and talk to you soon. Bye!